New rule, trench diggers. From now on, I will no longer be giving lengthy, personalized advice in the YouTube comments. If you want help with your setup, recommendations on equipment, or feedback on your riding, start a thread on the forum at carversconnection.com. The more effort you put into your thread, the more effort I will put into my reply. Post pictures of your board and videos of you riding it. Add specs on your gear and your body. I want to know your stance width and your angles, your boot size and your inseam length. I want to know where and what you ride. Narrow, crowded runs on East Coast hardpack or wide open groomers at Grand Targhee? Green circles or black diamonds? What's your experience? What are your goals? I want to help, but let's do this right from now on. The forum is a much better venue to discuss these things. It's searchable and permanent. We can share photos, videos, and links. Others can benefit from our discussions, and you'll probably find that mine is not the only informed opinion out there. Quick reminder, as of this moment, there are only 21 boards remaining of the 30 free carvers that JCJ Anderson agreed to build for next season. If you don't know who he is, look him up. This man has an Olympic gold medal, and he's been designing and building snowboards since the 90s. These will be the only wide softboot free carving boards available with Titanol and rubber construction for next season. And I promise you, they are a huge step up from whatever you're trying to carve now. This is a whole other level. If you've never ridden Titanol rubber, you can't even conceive of what's possible on a real high-performance carving board. We've taken my favorite boards and toned them down for the intermediate and advanced carver who needs a slower ride which is more forgiving and easier on the body, but no less grippy. You want one. You want to experience the G-forces and deep trenches that only Titanol rubber and carbon can offer. Available exclusively at carversconnection.com.
Hello again, trench diggers. Welcome back to the boardroom. This video is called Reflections on the Secret Series. All of that part one of the Secret Series was written and filmed last year. So I've had an entire season to reflect on what was said and to think about it in the context of your comments and in the context of more coaching experience. So I'd like to return to some of the things that were said there, make some clarifications, and just add a few tips and tricks and maybe help you get more progress in your carving technique faster. Okay? So the first thing I want to address is the bow. Okay? I talked about bowing at the hips. Okay? And at the same time I said keep your spine stacked, right? So there's a contradiction there. Nobody actually pointed this out, but I noticed it right away, right? So let me give you my perspective on these things. First thing is, from a style perspective, I think stacked is better. I think that upright torso is definitely better, stylistically speaking. However, when it gets rough, when it gets steep, icy, when we get those little death cookie ice balls, I'm bowing a lot, okay? I'm definitely pushing, I'm exaggerating that fore-aft motion as much as I can to keep my edge in the snow. So for you guys, I would suggest add some bow, add some fore-aft motion. But if it's easy for you, if you're on, good green or blue slope, good corduroy, try and remove that for style. But also, take your own style. My style is mine, your style is yours, no judgment. Importantly, when you do bow, you must bow over the nose of the board, never to the side of the board, okay? And this also works in conjunction with a lot of the other movements we're going to talk about. So we're going to take this discussion straight into the hip shift. Okay, this I finding this year as I'm coaching more people, one of the most difficult things for people to really figure out is the hip shift. Okay, so I'm seeing, like, if you watched Martina's video, you can see that knee is pointing out, right? We need to bring that knee in, turn the hips forward, tuck the tail, also the shoulders, also the back hand forward, okay? This is what we call the hip shift, right? You want to get into this kind of position for carving. A lot of people having trouble pulling that back knee forward. Bringing focus to it certainly will help. Driving, especially into heel side by dropping that back knee, will help. Just focus on that for a few turns when you can. The other thing that's going to help a lot is the lifting in the back heel and the canting in the binding. That's just, if you're tight, especially in the hips, that's going to help you bring that forward. When I talked about in the part one, being, hands, shoulders basically facing the front of the board on heel side, I thought it was true, but as I'm watching more and more videos, I realize I'm not quite getting there. So more important than finding your position straight over the front of your board is the twisting, you know, the knee, the hip, the shoulders. The twisting is going to drive that board. It's going to help it come around faster. So you don't have to be all the way there, but you have to be applying tension in that direction on heel side. Yeah, because remember, of course, the tighter you can turn, the faster you can come around, the less speed you're going to gain going straight down the fall line at the apex, right? So tightening up your turn, pushing harder actually helps slow you down and bring you around faster. So this is crucial. Yeah, so again, the backhand, right? The top 3 tips I'm telling almost everybody I'm coaching. Shoulders level, backhand forward, hip shift, okay? The backhand forward is basically part of that hip shift. It's part of that whole rotation. The shoulders level is something else that we control with the crunch in the obliques. But these are the top 3 tips. So if you're looking to improve your carving, focus on those 3 things first. What else have I discovered this year? One day I was out riding with a client and I forgot my string, but I wanted to work on the tray drill. And so I just pulled the elastic out of my mitten and I gave that to him, and that actually worked even better. So instead of riding with a string, get a bungee cord, hopefully without the metal hooks, right? A bungee cord or just some elastic. You can find it at your outdoor retailer usually, or any like craft store. This is more beneficial because now you can still move your hands within a certain limitation for balance as you need to, but the elastic pulls them back together and reminds you to keep those arms, you know, slightly wider than shoulder distance. What else? Patience, patience, patience. Okay, this I talked about a little bit in the secrets video, but I think I didn't stress it enough. I talked about at the apex of your turn, when you're facing down the fall line, you want to be maximally compressed, maximally rotated, maximally, what's the other one? Maximally forward, right? But what I didn't stress enough is from that moment, when you find that position in the apex, to just hold it through the rest of the turn. The idea is to spread out that edge pressure, right? So you don't get these sharp spikes. So you don't want to be doing too much movement in that let's say even 50, 60 degrees past the apex. You mostly want to be holding it. I also talked about you know, adding a little extra rotation or a little extra kick, you know, to finish your turns. And it's like, well, how does that make sense if you're maximally compressed, rotated, and forward at the apex, and then you're adding more right as you finish your turn? So what I'm going to say now is find that position at the apex and hold it. Hold the patience. Just feel the edge pressure, you know, smooth it out. Keep that edge in the snow until you start to face back across the fall line and you start losing speed, okay? And that's when you want to stand up. You want to stand up, decompress, bring your weight back, start to unrotate right at the end, right as you come into the transition. And with just the right amount of energy, momentum, and speed to bring your body across your board into the next turn. So that's a delicate balance. It's difficult to do. Practice, 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 of course. But the point is, find that patience. Find that position at the apex and just hold it. From there, you almost want to be balancing on your edge with just small micro adjustments to hold that edge in the snow. Which brings me to my next point, which is that I think it's important to think about sometimes following your board. Find that balance, find the position at the apex, be patient, and just see where your board goes. Ride it out. Let it tell you where it wants to turn. Don't be forcing it. Now, when I grew up, I was riding out east on super, green runs, but super icy terrain. And I was a small kid. The boards were way too big for me. And the balance was actually a super important aspect of my carving. I would kick the board up and just sort of wait for it to come around. In the icy terrain, you don't want to be pushing too hard. The boards were not capable. They were not as forgiving, well, not even close to as forgiving as the next generation Titanal rubber boards. But yeah, the point is I would just get up there, I would pretty much balanced on my edge. I wasn't really touching the snow very much, just balancing and letting the board ride out, taking its own course. Now I have much more skill, I have much better boards. Now I'm pushing, I'm bouncing a little bit for sure, but I know where that limit is. But for you, especially on green runs, kick it up, find that balance and patience and just wait. Let the board do what it's meant to do. Some micro adjustment is necessary. You definitely want to dictate at some point where your turns are going to go. But, you know, take a few turns, a few laps, just focus on the balance and the patience and see where your board wants to go and feel the feeling of that G-force produced as your board just brings you around. What else here? Yeah, slow it down, okay? This is what I'm telling a lot of people. Our aim, if you want to carve like me, pencil line carving up unweighted turns, your aim, where was I? Oh yeah, your aim is to control your speed through turn shape, right? So I have a lot of clients and, you know, then we'll go do the first lap and they're ripping open, you know, open turn shapes, and I'm like, that's way too much speed for your equipment. Like you already in the first two turns, you have too much speed to bring that speed under control again with one turn. So I'm constantly telling people as I'm coaching them, slow it down, control your speed on every turn, okay? Now I have some of the best boards in the world here. These boards are super stiff for a guy in my weight, which is about 155, 160. pounds. So what that means is I can skip a turn. Okay, if there are people or some weird terrain or a brown spot, I can just go straight down. I can gain a lot of speed and I can get it back under control with one turn with this equipment. But if you're riding a production board, you need to control your speed on every turn or you're going to have to scrub snow to slow down and then regain control. But in general, I see a lot of guys who are carving just going way too fast. And hey, if that's what you like to do, awesome, do it. But once in a while, just try to slow it down. Try to finish every turn and control your speed. That to me is the best feeling. And that's what I love. And that's what I'm trying to get you guys to do. Oh yeah, and carve every turn. So I grew up riding. I started in 1986 out east in Quebec. And at that time, there were few to no snowboarders on the hill. And the rules were at some of these mountains in Quebec, no jumping. Can you believe it? No jumping. And not kidding you, because I was one of the only snowboarders on the hill, the ski patrollers would lie in wait, knowing my favorite jumps, and cut my ticket if I took one. So, you know, I was pretty much forced to learn to carve. That was the only fun thing to do back there. There was no powder. And so I made it one of my early goals to try to carve every turn down the entire run. No scrubbing, no speed checks, but just carves, controlling my speed through turn shape on every turn all the way down. I like to imagine, I mean, this is theoretical, would never actually happen, but I want to put in the perfect track down each run. You could drop a marble in my track and it would just follow my track down the whole run. So yeah, I would think about that as well. And my attitude of trying to carve every turn, trying to find my lines through those tight sections, through those steep sections, whatever the challenges are that present themselves to you, this was my goal. And yeah, some of these sections I worked on for years to find my line through them so I didn't have to scrub speed. But I recommend this as an ethos, as just a goal while you're riding. Aim to carve every turn. Okay, now I talked a little bit a minute ago about bouncing. Okay, these, what I feel sometimes, particularly on green runs, is I feel a bit of a bounce. On toe side, from my back toes to heel side, the pressure is on my back heel and on the outside, on my front heel and on the outside of my front calf, right? This is where the pressure differential goes. So I think this is kind of important. I think you should aim at some points to find this kind of bounce back and forth, back toes, front heel, back toes, front heel in your turns. That's what it feels like to me when I'm doing it, and I think it's something you could work on as well. This brings me to another point I wanted to mention, which is, you know, philosophical in nature, but I think it applies here. The human mind always wants to know why, okay? And I want to tell you, for these purposes, in snowboard carving, why is less important than that. Why does it work? Why do I need my hip? Why do I need this much rotation? Why do I need to bend at this point, straighten at this point? It doesn't matter. Just try it. It's not your brain, your mind that has to learn these things. It's your body that has to learn these movements. And it has to learn so many different movements and how they relate and how they work in conjunction with each other. So my suggestion is put the why out of your mind. Focus on that. Now, you can only maybe focus on one or two things per run or per turn, and that's okay. So we go through the list, starting with the level shoulders, and then the knee and the hip shift, and the crunch and the obliques, one at a time. And you know, when I was practicing carving, which I'm kind of beyond the practice phase now, but I still learn new tricks. But for years and years, there was the first run every day, but like, whoa, 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 too fast, too fast. What do I need to do? Remember, hold your tray. Keep your shoulders level. Okay, that's working. Now we add in, okay, think about the knee. Now think about the hips. And each one I had to build on through the day till, you know, by the second or third run, I would be feeling good, right? And then I'm rocking. Now I can maybe take that to a higher level, add a little more style and a little less perfect form. But the point is, you can't think about 10 things at once. You can only bring your focus to one at a time. So I have mentioned so many things, body positions, techniques, board angulation, whatever it is. You can't do them, you can't think about them all at once. Think about them one at a time and progress through the day, through your runs, adding, hoping to come back the next day and with the muscle engrams that your body needs, this muscle memory of each one, so it's easier to keep your shoulders level. Now you can keep your shoulders level and focus on the knee. Okay, now you can do both of those things, now focus on the crunch. And when you lose it, come back to the beginning. But the idea here is to focus on, do some turns, do some laps, focusing on one element at a time and build up these muscle engrams over a season, over multiple seasons, whatever it takes to get you to the level you want to be at. What else here? Line choice. Line choice, I'm discovering by coaching more and more people, is actually not that easy. I've been snowboarding my entire life, and I look at the mountain as if it was like a paved skate park. And where would you put your turns? Where would you pump? How would you approach these things? How do you maximize your G-force on that roller or whatever it is, right? So that's how I treat the mountain. But this has been comes through decades of experience, and I'm seeing even riders who are well established, but you're strong riders, but not necessarily great carvers, struggle with line choice and don't see the terrain as I see the terrain. So I just mention it here because I would like you to bring your focus to line choice as well. And even if it means you stop at the top of your run and you look, okay, I want to put a toe side right there. That's going to be an awesome toe side up on that roller. I'm going to have my head below my board when I get in there. Focus on that, approach that, and then you combine it. Okay, and then my heel side goes here, and to get my toe side there, I need to put my other toe side up here so I come in with speed, whatever it is. But just bring some focus, bring some attention to line choice. Your mountain, your groomer is your playground. So enjoy it and take advantage of all the rollers, of all the terrain as you see it. Other questions I've been getting are, yeah, okay, great. That's awesome, James. I see you're always riding perfect corduroy, but what about ice? What about slush? What about chop, right? So I'd like to address that here. I want to say that for ice and chop, the technique is pretty much exactly the same. There's no changes, except it's twice as hard, particularly in chop, twice as much work and half as much fun. For ice, you're going to end up going a little wider because your edge pressure limit is going to be lower when the surface is super firm like that. So you have to go a little wider. You can also slow it down, draw out your turns, whatever you have to do. It's more bouncy on ice and less driving, pushing, aggressive. But the technique is the same. All the 9 elements apply. Everything I've said in all my videos about technique absolutely apply to ice. Chop as well, except you're going to have to be absorbing a lot more, okay? And for that you need the core strength and you need a little more flexion in your knees so the knees can go, the board can go, but your upper body stays relatively stable through that. That takes a lot of core tension to do it well, to carve well in chop. And again, yeah, twice as much work and half as much fun. But yeah, not all of you live at the base of a great hill like Revelstoke, and you got to take what you can get. I encourage you absolutely to do it anyway. If you love the feeling of carving like I do, that's where you take what you can get, take the turns you can get. I would also suggest that for anything, ice, chop, whatever you're riding, a Titan old rubber board is going to do half of the work for you. It's going to make it so much easier. And it doesn't necessarily have to be faster. I like my board super fast, but I'm working on some prototypes to get you a forgiving, slowish board that's going to be easy to handle and more satisfying, more grippy than these fiberglass boards. Yeah, what else here? Slush, yeah. So spring slush, it's springtime now, it's coming up, we're going to all be riding a lot of slush. So I find in slush, my approach is this. Rather than sinking into the snow, where you're carving a trench and keeping the back of your board in the same trench that the front of your board is making and carving these perfect turns, in slush, you're kind of making, you're not so much digging a trench by sinking the board deeply, you're plowing a trench and creating like a wall of slush as you go by. So it's more pushing on the snow and less digging, and you're not going to get that same high G-force turn and that energy return out of your carves, but it's absolutely doable and still fun. Slightly different approach. I think if you just think about plowing up that wall of snow that you're riding on, it's like you're creating your own bank slalom course on the way down, right? In one turn at a time. What else? Yeah, that's about it. I'll take this opportunity maybe to say something else about the boards too. Why does Titanol and rubber work so well for snowboard carving? And I just said, yeah, why doesn't matter with it, but let me just put it in context for you, okay? So when I'm riding a fiberglass board, a production Never Summer or whatever I'm up to and trying to carve this thing, if I lose a turn, if I'm slarving a little bit, if conditions are rough, you get this kind of high pitch, like sound as your board kind of skates across the snow, right? So when I'm doing that same thing on a metal rubber, Titanol rubber board, I don't get that kind of high-pitched vibration. I get a much lower frequency vibration. It's more like a whoop, whoop, whoop. And this kind of slow frequency of vibration keeps my edge in the snow. So these boards, all these Titanol rubber boards, are just so incredibly forgiving. And when I say forgiving, I mean forgiving of bad technique. If you haven't ridden one, these boards will blow your mind and just up your level immediately within the first few turns. And there is some truth to what Lars says about you kind of lose that energy return a little bit because they are so damp. But I can also increase my edge pressure way higher than I could with the fiberglass board. So yeah, while I may not get as much pop out of the turn as I would with a glass board, like some of these old Burtons were awesome at that. But they don't actually hold the carve. You have to have perfect technique to hold that carve and keep your edge in the snow. With the metal rubber boards, you don't necessarily have to have perfect technique. The board is going to do a lot of work for you, and it's going to sink into the snow and come around like nothing. It's going to blow your mind, like nothing you've ever experienced, I guarantee. Yeah, so there's trade-offs to both. But my choice is definitely the Titanol because I want the speed, I want the high edge pressure. And I'm willing to sacrifice and compromise a little bit of that energy return, a little bit of that pop. But some of my boards are made with extra camber and other little tips and tricks and ingredients to bring back some of that fiberglass pop. Yeah, that's it. Upcoming videos. I have two more at least two more that I want to film this year. The first one is the up unweighting versus down unweighting, and I've been teasing that since last year. I just, we haven't had that many great days to be filming this year, and I had other higher priorities. But I'm hoping to get a few more days this spring, a good sunny, good corduroy when I can demonstrate these kind of turns. That video will basically be an analysis of 3 different styles of turn. One will be the up unweighted pencil carve that I have been doing, but with better form for viewers to try to emulate, rather than me just kind of taking liberties and trying to show off in the best style I can do. But the other two turns will be down and weighted turns. One will be the Euro carve, and the other one will be the cross under, more of a slalom turn. And I will demonstrate all those three for you and make it clear what the differences are and how to do each one. Which actually brings me to another point that I forgot to mention in this reflections video. I see a lot of people kind of, come across the hill and then pivot a little bit as they enter their next turn. And I think for a great turn, a great series of turns, you need to eliminate that pivot. So I want you to think about coming off that, let's say I'm coming off a toe edge, okay? The board goes flat, the board goes up. Just like that. No pivot in that at all, okay? You're coming off your edge, you feel it. The board goes flat for a microsecond or a full second or whatever is suitable for that terrain and your board and whatever's going on that day. But feel that board flat, kick it up, okay? And eliminate that pivot out of your transition. The other video I will really want to do this year, which I think is super important, is about the J turn, which is actually really focused on just kicking that board up and riding it out. I won't go too deep into that right now, but I am finding with my clients that if we take a lap or two and focus on J turns, it really helps them with their transitions. It really helps them get their board higher, like angulated higher with respect to the snow, and to do it faster with the right timing. And so I would like to do I will do a video this year focused on the J turn and teach everybody how to do it. And last thing I wanted to address, I caught a lot of blowback all over the place for the trolling in the introduction of the Secrets Part 1. And what can I say? I just want to remind everybody that I have absolute respect for all riders, all stances, all styles. And I absolutely acknowledge that there are many, many tens of thousands of snowboarders that can do all kinds of things that I will never do on a snowboard. And respect, total respect. And the other thing I wanted to clarify is, when I talk about the carve being kind of a lost art, I did say softboot carving, but I wanted to just clarify that for everybody. There are many, many great hard booters all over the planet, but not so many great softboot carvers. And that was kind of my point there. I do think these techniques have been lost, because this is how we all used to do it in the 90s. This is posy stances, carving. This was normal. Nowadays, it's duck stances and soft, tiny boards that are super soft, made for all mountain, made for park, whatever it is. And that's a new style, and that's awesome, great. As long as you're having fun, enjoy. But if you read through the comment section of the Secrets Part 1, you will see how many people were just enlightened by simple tips like keeping your shoulders level and changing your stance and adding a little bit of cant and lift or whatever it is. These small tips lots of people have made a lot of progress, and that in itself demonstrates that the techniques are basically lost. They're not part of the CASI curriculum. They're not part of the PSIA or whatever they call it in the US curriculum. They're just not part of it anymore, but they used to be. I learned the trade drill from a CASI instructor back in 1989. But now like nobody teaches it. Nobody knows it. So I'm bringing it back. Hope you enjoy. Sorry for dragging on in this video. You can expect more of that in this exclusive content that I'm putting on the website only. I'm going to take more liberties. It's not going to be so fast. It's not going to be so highly edited. We're just going to have fun. Hopefully you have time. And this type of one-take video is way easier for me. I'm just going to go click upload, boom, it's done. So hope you like it.